r/askReddit. Students of Reddit. What's the weirdest thing a teacher has ever done in class? I once watched a teacher of mine have a mental breakdown, triggered by a student correcting her on a page number. Cursing, spitting, calling young girls whores, etc. was quite the show for 8-year-old me. Wow. Just wow. Did the teacher ever get disciplined for that? Quickly and severely. She was immediately let go and effectively blacklisted. Our principal and janitor, who was a retired teacher, took turns teaching us the rest of the year. He was having trouble with his dog, a boxer. Ike, getting into stuff at home, while he and his wife were away at work. The solution to this was to set up a video call with speakers and video in the rooms where the dog was and chastise the dog over video. On the projector in front of the whole class. The dog didn't listen at all, which made it even better. This is really funny lol. When I was a teacher in college, I noticed I'd been assigned to a 4th floor room with a really wide ledge below it that was hard to see. So on the first day of class, I arrived half an hour early when the room was empty, climbed out the window onto the ledge, then waited with a book until I was 10 minutes late, and then climbed in the 4th floor window to introduce myself. It made the impression I hoped. That is the best thing in this thread. Had a professor that I had been told once ate chalk. So I asked him about it. Grabs a piece of chalk, pops it in his mouth, eats it and says it's really not that different from Tums. Same guy once stopped lecturing, knocked on the whiteboard, walked to the edge, put his face against the wall, as if to look behind it, stated I could hide my treasure back here, and then continued lecturing as if nothing happened. Are you sure the chalk wasn't licorice? NETA. History teacher of mine wanted to be cool with us, the student. He made a joke about one of my friend's mom. My friend responded your mother, and was promptly kicked out of class. My friend never got in trouble, because he explained the situation to the main office and we all backed him up. Don't dish it out, if you can't take it. Mr. Weber. History teacher, u/cast's mom is a carpenter's wet dream, flat as a board, and in need of a good screw. u/cast your mother. History teacher, surprised Pikachu face. Another passable version of this would be flat as a board and easy to nail. On the first day of the school year, the new teacher started crying because he missed his old school and students. That's so sweet. Or just shows that the new class is horrible. I was taking a bullshit film history class for a gen ed at the local community college before I transferred to a 4-year. And the teacher was this weird guy who was in his late 60s, had dreadlocks, and was really into health/fitness, and liked to talk about weird shit all the time, like how he bet he could outrun the 20-year-old men in the class in a race. One day in the middle of a lecture, completely out of the blue, he points to a girl in the middle of the class who looked 18 or 19, and asked who has a reason for why I shouldn't be in a relationship with her. The first person says, because he's her teacher. So he says okay. But what if I weren't her teacher? Then somebody says he's significantly older than her. And he says he's really healthy and plans to live past 100. After an uncomfortable amount of time, somebody finally says there is no reason they shouldn't be together. And he says that's right. And we continued with the lesson like it had never happened. It wasn't relevant to anything. I understand that she didn't raise her hand and say because I don't want to, but I really wished she had lol. This would have been the best possible response. I mean, I guess it's as sad as it is weird, but I vividly recall one of my teachers, who was usually quite strict when it came to most things, and was actually a really good teacher. Coming into class one day, she was late for the first time ever. Sat at her desk and began crying over a breakup. She didn't address anyone, she just sat there and cried. Like I said, she was always a bit strict, so we all just kind of sat there for the remainder of the class and somehow managed to make small groups and began practicing for an upcoming quiz. It was a language class in order to give her some space. Nobody ever mentioned it to anyone in admin, from what I can tell, and thus she came in the next class, sincerely apologized, and also commemorated us for making our one study groups instead of sitting there awkwardly. She was a great teacher. A really nice person. And, with the exception of that time, always professional, so, although we found it to be weird, I guess, we just gave her a pass and moved on from there. I mean, anyone is capable of having such a low point. With all of that being said, I have taught before, albeit at university level, and I still think it wasn't professional and weird, but I don't know. I suspect that it may have been difficult to have quickly found a substitute. Speaking as both a former substitute teacher and knowing teachers, it is almost impossible to find a substitute last minute. She probably had already tried her hardest to find one, and instead of leaving her class empty, or forcing an administrator to come down to babysit, actually came in even knowing she'd break down like that in front of everyone. Also, this might not be the case everywhere, but at least in my state, teachers have to pay for their own substitutes. Either way, she sounds like a great teacher, and you guys probably did the best thing you possibly could have in that situation, and made things a lot easier for her in the process. Good on you. In my state, teachers have to pay for their own substitutes. Say what now? WTF. I had a history teacher who had been through a lot of action in Vietnam. He was showing us the PBS series on the American Civil War. And during a scene with lots of battlefield noises, men screaming, cannons, and gunfire, he had a PTSD flashback. He started screaming for us to get down. So we all got down under our desks. After a few minutes he came to and told us he was joking, that we all did well. He left the room and didn't come back that class period. He was a great guy. I think he handled it well afterwards, TBH. He was a very funny guy. One of the best teachers I've ever had. I taught an entire class with an open fly. Now I have to obsessively check half a dozen times before going into a class. Do you have a heavy Russian accent? I really need to know that as well. Was he going commando? High school science teacher showed us an old video about the dangers of electricity. Featured a girl trying to hit a shuttlecock out of a tree, hitting an overhead wire with a racket, and falling to the ground screaming. He rewound and replayed the scene at least 20 times while laughing and grunting. That does sound funny. I'd be laughing at the teacher, albeit really uncomfortably. Not sure about weird, but I had a college professor who played World of Warcraft during class some days. Apparently the people he played with were from Australia, so the times they played were mornings in the US. The rank 14 grind never stops, my man. My teacher, after app exams, and during the time in which we do jack hit, because there's no more to learn, started playing Overcooked with us, and he's just shouting, "I've got the rice. What do I do with the rice? Sushi round." To be completely honest, we didn't think he'd actually join in, but it was pretty funny. We played Hearts of Iron 4 after our exams and this teacher annexed everyone a full Soviet Union. That sounds fun. High school biology teacher showed us a video of a woman giving birth. After the video ended she accidentally pressed rewind without stopping the video first. Good old VCR days. Making us watch the whole thing in reverse. Imagine a man grabbing a baby by its head and sticking it back in. I'm having a terrible week and this just made me laugh so hard. Thank you. Be kind. Rewind. He sat on the desk and then suddenly he just fell to the floor, holding his foot, screaming cramp in the toe. Honestly, anyone who's ever had a toe/leg cramp knows this hit is real. The ones in the arch of the foot suck. And the only way to stop it is to stretch the foot. My teacher noticed that only girls asked questions and engaged in class. And he reckoned it was because he was a male, so they were attracted to him, hoping that the guys would ask more questions. He wore a dress for an entire day. Oh, there would be questions. My stats teacher was holding a mug of coffee and pretending to drink out of it for about half an hour. He then set it down on his desk under the classroom projector, and there was a giant dead roach in it. The class freaked out, and he seemed pretty amused by our reaction. Teacher trolling at its best. My physics teacher once just wrote in a notepad on the projector, writing that he has a sore throat, so he will just do it like this today. My geography teacher once asked if anyone had something to eat, grabbed a sandwich of one of my friends, and just ate it while giving a lesson. Edit, since you guys are enjoying this teacher's stories. He also once told us, especially guys, that we have to be careful with cold weather, because the willy will frown and not work so well. After he had a trip to Poland. Edit 2, we had 2 years of Geography A. And on last year of high school we had Geography C with him. We spent most time watching movies, meme compilations or WTV we felt like watching on YouTube. Talking about sexuality. We had a telling jokes/stories class and the best of all was like, he made fun of us without being extremely mean. And if he felt like he hurt someone, he'd apologize. Might have been low blood sugar. One of my professors asked if anyone happened to have juice or a candy bar in class because he was having a hypoglycemic episode. Nah, not really. Same teacher screamed bomb alert in a funny tone. So we'd leave sooner. Just because he felt like to. I miss that teacher. One of my old teachers watched porn while the projector was running. Classmates filmed it and he got suspended. Did the teacher get fired and/or arrested? I think he got fired, but he only had a couple years left until retirement anyway. Make sure to like and subscribe so we can watch together.